Hi, this is Anthony Strauss, Treasurer of the Libertarian Party. I'm here with Mike Termet, a presidential hopeful for the Libertarian Party for 2024. How's it going?
Great. It's great to be with you.
Thanks.
Thanks for setting us up and having a chat.
You got it. Thanks for getting in here today. We'll just get right to it, if that's okay.
Bingo.
Cool. So 2024, you want to be our presidential guy. What puts you ahead of some of our other people that might be putting their name in the wheelhouse there?
And I think that there will be others, and some of them are terrific individuals. So I certainly don't mean any disrespect by seeking out the nomination myself. I think I can push the process in the direction I think is really important. I think we have a huge opportunity in 2024. We can talk about that, and for reasons that they're well aware, right? But to take advantage of that opportunity, I think we need to have a very professional campaign. I think that we need to run it with professionalism. I think that we need to honor what it is the American public expects out of our nominee, someone who's committed to public service with a background in public policy, to run a campaign that's focused on public policy, and at the same time, a campaign that cleaves hard edges against the Republican Party, and a campaign that cleaves hard edges against the Democratic Party. We're not like the other parties.
Not at all.
And we need to say that boldly, loudly, and backed up in a credible fashion.
With you wanting to run, and you've ran for Congress before, what was the leap for you to go, all right, I'm not doing Congress anymore, I want to be our party's president?
A lot of the issues that come up are by their nature nationwide. And a lot of the issues that come up are those in which I have an interest and that fit into my personal wheelhouse. As an economist for 20 years before becoming a police officer, I spent a lot of time with public policy in terms of monetary policy, fiscal policy, and I think the public is increasingly aware that we have problems in those areas. Part of the reason we have such an opportunity in 2024 is that a lot of Americans recognize that inflation comes from bad public policy. It doesn't just fall off of a tree, right? And that we did not handle COVID well, that we spent far, far too much money, that shutting down businesses was unhealthy. As frustrated as we are with all the things that happen, they represent opportunities for us. And of course, being a police officer the past 11 and a half years, I recognize that we need to make real fundamental change in the way that we manage police officers, but more broadly in the criminal justice system generally. We need to end the war on drugs and treat crime very, very differently, I believe. And these are national issues, not just local issues.
Very good. Are there libertarian things that you've taken to consider in Virginia that have created solution?
In Virginia, I've only been in Virginia for a few months. I should say, I just moved there.
Okay.
I spent the past 20 years in Florida, and
They're doing well now.
Florida is doing well in some respects. Yeah, Governor DeSantis just had a big win, of course, and we were all grateful that DeSantis handled COVID differently than, for example, we're here in California today.
Yeah, we got lucky here in Kern, but the rest of the state's been really kind of demolished.
Yeah. It was really interesting going through the COVID regime in Broward County as a cop. You were asked to back up some policies that just made absolutely no sense, tossing people off of beaches and out of swimming pools and things like that was really a frustrating experience. And there is a lot of non-compliance that as a police officer you have some discretion over. That's the good news. The bad news is you get a good look at bad public policy up front and personal.
Yeah, you get to be the front line for policy, good or bad.
Yeah. So that's a frustrating experience and an educational one. You learn some things you wish you didn't find out, right?
Was there a coming to Liberty moment while you were a police officer? I know it sounds from the timeline like you were already liberty-minded, but still in law enforcement.
I joined the party around the same time I became a police officer, about 11, 12 years ago, something like that. I didn't really become very active in the party until a few years ago. But as an economist, I was always sort of on the practical side, recognizing that free markets, for example, are the way to boost our wealth and income, and leaving people alone made our economy work better and made people's lives better. But I have to say that around the time I started pursuing a second career as a police officer is where I started to really think about the ethical side of libertarianism, and what a shame it is that our government imposes on us a way of managing our lives. It's not in line with how we would act if we could get the government out of our lives. That's an important distinction and two different ways of looking at libertarianism.
While you were like working as a police officer, have you had the opportunity to like try to wedge liberty conversations to your fellow officers, things of that nature?
Oh, absolutely, and vice versa. You would enjoy the discussions and the arguments that we would have among police officers. One of the things that fascinated me is that police officers are by and large liberty-minded by their nature.
Yeah, I may imagine most of them want to be good people, but something happens along the way.
Well, there are circumstances in which bad things happen, but most cops are skeptical of bad public policy. They're skeptical of the government trying to do too much. And of course, anybody, I'm sure any American can relate to the idea that you're naturally skeptical of your employer.
Right.
When your employer is a municipality, naturally you're going to be even more skeptical about the government. So I do find that the cops are not just conservative. Many cops are conservative. That's long history, right? But just as importantly, libertarian by their nature. So yeah, a lot of arguments and a lot of discussions. A lot of cops didn't get vaccinated just because the city
Right.
wanted us to, for example.
Good.
You'd be pleased to hear how police officers feel.
Is there anything that we should note setting you ahead of all the other potential nominees that are going to look forward to put their name for the party?
I work hard as a believer in libertarianism and as a believer in public service. I think that they go hand in hand. I do believe in making change using the system. I believe that the Libertarian Party is set up not just to be in the business of playing an activist role, but in using the system, running for office, getting our message out, using the electoral process. And I do believe that the presidential nominee has an obligation to spread our message loud and unapologetically so that local politicians, local libertarians running for office, can speak to their constituents in a way in which those constituents have already heard the message, right? In other words, the presidential nominee has to give air cover for the ground troops.
Right.
So often I found running for Congress that I'm having a conversation with people in Broward County. So often folks aren't even familiar with some of the ideas that we're trying to push. And I think that our presidential nomination, our nominee, has to do a better job of spreading the message out ahead of those local races. And that's something that I believe in and I work at very, very hard. So I'm not sure that makes me all that different than a number of people, but I've been working very hard at it as a candidate.
Excellent. With everybody that's doing the work in the party now, there's been a lot of changes. Are you happy about some of the changes that have occurred in the party as of recently, or?
I am happy with most of the changes. We have new leadership that I believe recognizes that we need to be out there at a national level, pushing our message hard, that our job is to, at the same time, recognize that we have an overlap, a tremendous overlap with how the American public views public policy. But our job is not to find overlap with the other parties. Our job is to distinguish ourselves from Republicans and to distinguish ourselves from Democratic politicians. That's so important. And I feel that in the past, we worked far too hard to find overlap with the politicians. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, because we would step on our own message, we wouldn't even find the overlap with the American public. So we were backwards. And I think that our new leadership understands this and recognizes that and is willing to pick up a shovel and do the hard work in this regard.
Yeah, that kind of leads into my next question. Do you think that, or I'm sorry, that's not how I want to address it. A lot of party politics right now, everything's internal. People who call themselves libertarian, they have it in philosophy, but they're not putting in the work. How can we, from your position, how would you agree that we get people out into the streets performing libertarian activity, pushing the philosophy? How do we get the soccer moms out there with the gun nuts?
Well, they may be in two different groups. One of the things that we need to recognize is that we have a full panoply not only of issues, but we also have a full panoply of ways that you can be involved.
Yeah.
So if you're someone that thinks you can bite off running for office, I encourage you to do so. As a way to stick your toe in that water, support someone else who's interested in running for office. Whether that's running for Congress, the state house, the school board, your county supervisors, nonpartisan races are a huge opportunity, and they bring groups together. We had a lot of fun when I ran for Congress in Broward County, Florida. We had a lot of fun bringing people together, like-minded individuals, and get out there and do the rah-rah. Mm-hmm. And the campaign itself was a focal point to get people energized. Not because we thought that we had a huge percentage opportunity to win the race, but we had a giant percentage opportunity to spread the message. And that's what it's all about. In addition to that, you don't need an election to be going on to go down to your school board and complain.
That's right.
Right? You don't need an election going on to write letters to your editor, to wave signs at the beach. There are a number of ways to go at it, and we need people who are interested in any one of those.
Very good. Any message that you want to deliver to the American public at large?
Well, the American public at large is frustrated with the Republican and Democratic Party. We know that. We know that they're frustrated for reasons that fall into our wheelhouse. They're frustrated with the increasing authoritarianism. They're frustrated with increasingly bad public policy that the American public recognizes as such. And so my message would be, we're coming.
Awesome.
The cavalry is around the corner.
I love it. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Awesome. How's that, guys?
We had some fun. That was fun. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you.